Hi, this is Ethan Tapper, the Chittenden County Forester for the Vermont Department of Forest, Parks, and Recreation, and I'm here today to talk to you about managing town forests. So if you don't know what county foresters do, the County Forester Program has been in Vermont since the 1940s, and our main job is to support the private landowners of Vermont. So Vermont's about 75% forested, 80% of those lands are privately owned. And so privately owned lands contribute massively to our lives and our quality of life and a lot of different things that we care about. The public benefits that flow from private lands are incredibly important. Stuff like clean air, clean water, wildlife habitat, carbon sequestration and storage. A big part of our job is that we manage the use value appraisal program, also known as the current use program. We're also a general resource for people who own pieces of forested land of any size. So from a couple of acres to a couple thousand acres, we'll go out and advise them on how to manage their land responsibly. And we also play some role in managing town forests. And I'm going to talk about what I've learned about managing town forests in my time as the Chittenden County Forester. I'm going to give you some tips maybe for your community. All right. So my name is Ethan Tapper. I'm the Chittenden County Forester. My email address is ethan.tapper@vermont.gov in case you have questions about this. So we have a strong history of town forests in Vermont. In 1915, Vermont passed our first legislation enabling municipalities to acquire town forests. The statute describes municipal forests, town forests, as being attractive land primarily devoted to producing wood products, maintaining wildlife habitat, protecting water supplies, providing forest recreation and conservation education. And that's actually, more than 100 years later, still a really good description of what town forests do. Now, at this time, in the early days of town forests, the state of Vermont paid for a portion of the acquisition cost sometimes of these town forests, sometimes even paid for them to be reforested. We had state tree nurseries. There was a bunch of really interesting legislation temporarily related to town forests. One of these that I really like is that in 1951, Vermont passed a law that required each town without a town forest to put the question of whether they should acquire a town forest in the warning for their town meeting. These early statutes gave the Commissioner of Forest, Parks, and Recreation some advisory and management authority over these town forests, and that is the authority under which the county foresters now operate. We don't have the same amount of ability to assist towns. We're not giving them money. We're not giving them reforestation. But what we are giving them in many cases is some technical assistance for no charge. Today, what a town forest is really different. So it doesn't designate, it doesn't entitle a community to specific monetary benefits like we talked about. And they're called all different kinds of things. So community forest, municipal forest, town forest, natural areas, conservation areas, country parks, just in Chittenden County, are all names of town forests. And the important thing is that now it doesn't have to be an official designation. Any piece of forested land that a town owns is a town forest. So many newer town forests are acquired. Some of these older town forests were acquired by tax derelict parcels, abandoned farms, parcels that a town seized for failure to pay taxes, stuff like that. A lot of them were also water management forests, reservoir forests. But newer town forests, many of them are acquired through these conservation partnerships. So they'll work with an organization like the Vermont Land Trust or the Trust for Public Land, and they will help the towns acquire the funding that they need to acquire these town forests. And then at the end of the day, at the end of the project, those town forests are conserved with a conservation easement, protected forever. And modern town forests are also managed for all different kinds of things, for recreation, for conservation education, for water quality, for all sorts of different things, and usually a combination of multiple different things. Town forests are cool. So one thing that I really love about working with town forests is, in Chittenden County, there's about a dozen of them. They cover over 4,000 acres, and they're all like completely different. And so they have different things to offer to our local Chittenden County community. They're shaped by the communities that they're a part of. And so in that way, they're really different as well. And it's just such an interesting type of public land, which is, much more accessible to the community than other types of public land, where you can just go to a meeting, on a weeknight at the town hall, or now a virtual meeting, and just show up and really have an influence over the way that these incredible pieces of land are managed and taken care of. So in everything we do on town forests, public engagement and input is a really important part of the process. So usually I say with managing town forests, you should have a plan. You should have a management plan, sort of a broad governance document, which is saying this is in general what we're managing this town forest for. And you should have a forest management plan if you're doing forest management. So a forest management plan, I think of it as a part of the management plan that dictates this is exactly what's going on in the forest, and if we're managing it, this is exactly what we're going to do. To get public engagement and input, there is actually, through the Vermont Department of Urban and Community Forestry, a series of tools that were put together, town forest recreation planning tools that you can look up that will show you some really great ways to garner public input and engagement. And so it's important, from my perspective, we're going to talk about education and outreach in a second, but from my perspective, engaging people is really important because the people in the community own this town forest, it belongs to them, but then also because it gives us more ways to reach out to them and show them why the type of management that we're doing is really compelling. So when I'm working with towns on town forests, and I've been very active on them, my biggest goal is education and demonstration. So we're using these town forests, deserve to be managed well. And yes, that when we do manage them well, the benefits that they provide to our landscape are really, really important. But much, much more important than those benefits, or much more far-reaching, I should say, are the implications of showing people how to manage their forests better, helping people better understand how forests work, and the many benefits that forests are providing to all of us all the time. So what we really want to do is that. And so our ability to spread that message and to make these projects really important is a function of our ability to spread that message, to engage people. And then when we've got them engaged, to really communicate clearly and effectively about what we're doing and why it's really, really important. We can do it for all different kinds of reasons. Providing on the town forest that we have here in Chittenden County, we have really unique wildlife habitat, and we can do management to enhance that habitat. We can provide refuge. We have many areas that are also unmanaged, and so are providing a different kind of unmanaged habitat within these town forests. And there's just all kinds of public benefits that are flowing out of them, right? So they're important because they're sites of demonstration, and they're improving the way that we understand forest management. They're improving access to public land. Or they're providing access by being public land, but then they're also providing public benefits like, that really unique piece of habitat that's contributing to that species, being able to exist on the landscape in general. Clean air, clean water, carbon sequestration and storage, habitat for a whole wide range of Vermont's wildlife, all that stuff. Another cool outcome of managing town forests can be providing resources and income for local projects. So an example of this is in 2007, the Heinsberg Town Forest embarked upon a project called From the Forest to the Floor, where they needed to replace their 100-year-old town hall floor. And so they harvested trees from their town forest. They had them milled up at a local mill in Bristol. And now their town hall has flooring from the Heinsberg Town Forest. Another example of this is at the Heinsberg Town Forest. I just completed a forest management project there over the last 2 winters. And we took a lot of that funding and we used it to pay for invasive species treatment on Heinsberg's other town forest, the La Platte Headwaters Town Forest. So it can be a really neat way that, the income in most cases shouldn't be the goal. We shouldn't be going out there and being like, we just really need to make some money. It's never a good idea to sort of have that mindset when you're managing an ecosystem. But in the case of commercial forest management, we can do really good management that we're really excited about, that really does right by the forest. And at the same time, we can generate income as a byproduct and then use that income for another really cool project on the town forest. So an example of this is the Heinsberg Town Forest project I just talked about. Over a couple of winters, first of all, we developed a management plan in 2012. Following that, a forest management plan was developed. And in keeping with that forest management plan, we decided we wanted to do some management. So I guided the town through the process of contracting a logger, signing them to a contract that protected the town's interest. I served as the forester on this job, so I marked all the trees to be cut and made sure the logger was doing everything they were supposed to doing, and then coupled it with this really robust outreach process. Over the course of this project, we did 19 public events attended by over 500 people. And they ran the gamut. There were all different kinds of things, partnered with all different kinds of organizations and framed in all different kinds of ways, from, lots of walks on a Saturday, walking through the area that was being managed actively, to cultural events. We did a Heinsberg Town Forest History Night in the town hall, and 80 people showed up. And we did a storytelling night with the logger who used to be working the town forest for 30 years and is now a Moth Story Slam champion storyteller. And got 70 or 80 people to show up to that as well. There's a lot of different ways to think about how to manage effectively, but I really think about sort of broadening the coalition. Who are we talking to? How can we think about, I really believe that forest management can be done really well, and it's really exciting, and it supports a lot of other things that we care about. So then how do we get people interested and excited about forest management that wouldn't normally be? Some of the most powerful tools that I've used are partnering with all different kinds of organizations, from Vermont Woodlands Association, the Vermont Land Trust, to organizations like City Market Co-op in Burlington and Vermont Pride Center, framing walks in different ways. So focusing on wildlife, focusing on carbon sequestration and storage, focusing on forest bird habitat, rather than just trying to focus on forest management, which less people are interested in, and offering people lots of different ways to get involved. So in-person events, virtual events, events that are in the library, events that are out in the woods, and again, these cultural events. I've also done some outreach. I have an active project right now at the Andrews Community Forest in Richmond. And it's been also interesting to expand upon those outreach those outreach methods, and to do so without doing in-person events. So we've done a lot of virtual events. I've been doing short weekly, like 3 to 5 minute videos on YouTube, and I have an Andrews Community Forest channel on my YouTube channel. I have a blog. I've created a self-guided tour. So there's an app called Avenza that allows you to navigate on a georeferenced PDF map, and people can scan a QR code, download the app Avenza, scan another QR code, download the map of the area. This was before the forest management project started, and they could walk through the area, see all the trees that I've marked to be cut and the trails that have been laid out, and ask me questions about them. We're also been really into creating photo posts, so people can take a picture from the same exact spot as before, during, and after the project, and then hopefully for many years after, to see how it develops. Creating really great informational signage using stuff like drone photography and videos, and hopefully we're going to be allowed to do in-person events. So that's a little bit about managing town forests. There's a lot to each one of those things, and I encourage all of you, if you have questions about how to manage your town forest, reach out to me, ethan.tapper@vermont.gov, or reach out to your county forester and see how this might apply in your community. Thanks.